I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Hillary.
And we're the Feral Housewives.
So today's segment, we're going to begin with our feral moments of the week.
So my feral moment of the week happened when I went to my hairstylist. I get my hair done because I have a lot of gray in it. And that is like one of the things that I allow myself. Like one of the spoiled moments that I allow myself. And I have really long hair. Spent a year, I haven't cut it in a long time. But I've spent a long time getting it to grow long, and I take really good care of it. But it was time to get it cut, and you know how, well, if you've had long hair, you know, your ends get all split end right before you need to get it cut. And it was getting super snarly, so I went to bed one night, and I put it in a braid. And while I was sleeping, a knot formed at the base of my skull, a huge knot, and I was supposed to get it cut in 2 days. So when I got up that morning, I saw it had a huge knot, and I was like, whatever, and I put it in the bun for the next 2 days and let my hairstylist comb it out because I was feral. And then I told my hairstylist about this podcast, and now she's gonna listen to this podcast and know that I left my knotted hair for her to comb.
But didn't you tell her, I don't know how that got there?
I did. I don't know how it got there. I just fell asleep and I woke up and my hair was up and everything. But it was really hard to get out and I just didn't have time to comb out a knot because my kids were crying. But now my hair is freshly dyed. It's freshly cut and I have had no knots since then.
Nice. So my feral moment for the week is I had to take Edwin into the doctor because his current PCP was retiring and we had to establish new care with the new one. So I took him in to establish with the brand new doctor, and we go in and we've never met this man before. And Edwin is normally normal when we go to the doctor.
I mean, he does say things.
Yeah, but, so we go in and he's on the ground barking at the doctor. And I was like, Edwin, get off the floor. The floor is dirty, gross, get up. And he's just barking at the doctor. I was like, oh my gosh, child, please get up. So he finally gets up and he sits up on a table and the doctor's like, hi, I'm Dr. So-and-so. And Edwin's like, ruff. And I was like, oh my gosh. I swear, he's not normally like this. He normally speaks. And he's like, it's okay. He's 6. And I was like, yeah, but normally he talks. He's not like this. And all Edwin did was bark at him for the first 5 minutes of our visit. And I was like, Edwin, come on, seriously, you need to talk to him. So finally he did. And they talked and whatever. And then we were kind of catching up on things. And Edwin, later on a separate appointment later that day, we had, because he has a lot of allergies, and the new doctor referred him to an allergist to get tested for some other allergies. And so we move on from this establishing PCP with this one to the allergist to test him for allergens in the air, not food ones, which we already know most of those. And so we're there, and he's on my phone watching a show while he's waiting for the 15 minutes, and he's like, my back's so itchy. So he's waiting there watching Magic School Bus. And then they come in and they wipe his back off and they're like, okay, so he's allergic to this, this, and this. And then I'm like, okay, so what's the next step? And then Edwin comes over and he hands me my phone and he's like, can you do this, please? And I look at it, I'm like, it's a login screen for Little Caesars. And I'm like, why are you trying to order pizza? And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to order 11 pizzas. It's only $105. And I was like, give me my phone back, kid. The crap. I'm glad you had to log in there. So I log out. So then I get my phone. I'm swiping, closing all these apps. And then there's another one open for Menchie's. I'm like, were you trying to order Menchie's frozen yogurt? Yeah, I wanted 3 of chocolate ones. And I was like, oh my gosh, child. You cannot have my phone again in the doctor's office ever again. So anyways, so he's not allowed to have my phone ever again. Alone. Well, I mean, I was there, so.
Especially when he's not hungry.
Yeah. Especially if he's hungry. Whew.
Edwin is funny, though. He says the funniest things.
He's pretty silly.
Can I tell him the story about the urn?
Yeah, go ahead.
So one day, we're at my house, and he's like, Kim? And I'm like, yes, Edwin. He's totally dead serious. This is the most serious topic he ever wants to talk about. I'm like, what is it? And he's like, did you know that my dad's mom is in his office her dead body. He's like, it's burnt to ashes and it's in a box, in a bag, in a vault, in his office. And I was like, oh. And then I asked Hillary, it's like, is Sean's mom in his office in a bag, in a vault? She's like, no, it's just sitting on the table.
She's just chilling with it. So Sean's mom passed away during COVID, and we weren't able to have like a typical funeral for her or anything. So she is still currently hanging out with Sean in his office by his desk.
He just needed a little extra time with her.
So I don't know, whatever. That's his deal. Mother's Day, I usually come in and I tie a Mother's Day balloon on it for him. So
really, that's sweet. I'm kind of weird and creepy.
Yeah, I know, right? So that's a little feral, I guess, kind of.
Yeah,
having a random dead cremated body on your desk.
I mean, a lot of people have the urns in their house.
That's true.
He didn't say it was in an urn though. He said it was in like a box.
I mean, because it is
in a bag. Yeah, but not like a nice box. He made it sound like it was just like.
Oh.
I don't even think he said a box. I think he said it's in a bag.
Oh.
And I'm like picturing a Ziploc bag.
Oh no, it's not like that.
It's in a gift bag with her name on it, in case they ever get any more dead bodies.
Okay, and with that,
we are moving on to our discussion for this week,
which is going to be what we think personally you should chat about with your significant other before getting married and becoming a housewife or house whatever.
House person. Non-house person. A married person.
Yes. So I don't know about you, but I know Sean and I, when we dated, so I think the biggest, strongest thing in Sean and our relationship is communication. Because my parents didn't have that. And so,
are your parents
Mom and
Dad,
I love you dearly, but you didn't really have that. So, that was one of the biggest things that I wanted in a relationship was communication. And so when Sean and I dated, I told him, like, I don't want any lies. I don't want any secrets. I don't want to hide anything, which is all this falls under the same categories. And I want to share everything, like bank accounts and like our names are both on the cars and houses and everything. Everything is shared because again, Mom and Dad, I love you dearly, but you taught me what not to do. And I learned and went the opposite, so theirs wasn't like that. And so I wanted the opposite. So Sean and I have done that. And I think it's been really well, for us, it's gone really well. So we talk about everything and anything. So I think communication is the biggest thing. So we talked about everything under the sun before we were married. So we can start with, so our biggest topic were kids because we wanted kids. Not everybody wants kids, but we did. Sean wanted 4. I wanted 2/1. I was okay with 1, but 2 was okay with me as well. He wanted 4, and then we had 2, and then he was like, you know what? They're expensive. I'm okay with 2. So we stopped at 2. So that kind of changed in the matter of there. What was one for you guys?
So when Adam and I started dating / talking about getting married, he was actually married previously. He was divorced. And so we talked a lot about what we expected, in our marriage. And one of the things we did was we sat down and we talked about, the non-negotiables
of
that's
us on my list here.
Being married. Yeah. So we each, sat down and we talked about things that we either had to have or would not put up with. So one of the things is Adam always wanted me to tell him when I was upset, which is funny because I'm very good at expressing myself when I'm upset. I'm very good at expressing myself in almost every situation. I'm not often at a loss for words. My problem is I have an abundance of words and I have to temper what I say, which I've gotten better at since I've been older. So that was one of the things we wanted to do is that whenever we were mad, we wanted to be like, hey, this is what I'm mad about. and fix it, which we both are. We're very like, hey, dude, I'm pissed off about this. We're very good at talking about it. Sometimes I wish that we could be a little more mild-mannered when we talk about it, but like, so yeah. The second thing is I always knew that I wanted to name my first daughter Catherine. So if we had a girl, I wanted to name her Catherine because that's a family name. So it was non-negotiable for me. And Adam was kind of like, cool. And his was, he didn't want any names that started with B because of our last name. And he wanted to make sure that all of our kids' initials didn't come up with something like weird.
Okay, now I'm gonna have to ask you about that later because I'm like thinking of it in my head and I'm like
well, I'll say this. He didn't want our kids to have the initials B-O.
Oh, okay.
It was like a big deal for him. Like, super big deal.
I was like way overthinking this.
And like, whenever we go to name one of our children,
oh man,
like he goes through all the name, like, okay, this is the first initial, this is the first initial, this is the first initial. It spells this word. And so yeah. Which I kind of thought was ridiculous, but actually I have a friend who her husband also does that.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that was his big thing, is he didn't want our kids to have any funny names that they could get made fun of for. And then I don't do to vomit. I hate vomit. I think I said that in the last episode. I'll probably say it every episode. I hate vomit. And so when it was possible, whenever one of our kids were sick, I expect him to deal with the vomit. Which he does. He does a pretty good job at it. And then the next thing was, this was Adam's. If we had a girl, he didn't want, if we were both in public somewhere, he didn't want to take her into the men's restroom to go to the bathroom. Like, he wanted me to take her because he felt like a creeper taking a little girl into the men's restroom. And I was like, actually, when you think about that, like, that makes sense. Yeah. So, and now we luckily only have one girl and she's 8 now. So it was never really a problem. And when we're in public, he always takes the boys, you know? So
you have a lot of non-negotiables. I don't know. I feel like I didn't have that many.
Yeah, we had a lot. Probably because Adam was divorced. So he had like very, very specific. Divorced? Oh, you were divorced. He had like very specific.
That, but I was only married for 8 months, so it wasn't a very long one.
Yeah. And they were married, like they had a kid, you know?
Yeah,
so I feel like
true.
those.
Yeah.
So yeah. And there was another one.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
What was it?
Threw
No,
you
it's
off
okay.
Your track.
We apparently had lots of
non-negotiables.
Oh, we shared everything.
Yeah.
So we share finances. We share everything.
I guess that was my biggest one. We shared everything and everything. We were honest with everything. But then, so our one biggest non-negotiable, which is still to this day for 12 years later, is I don't take any garbage out. Because when Sean and I were dating, so they lived in an apartment in this like fourplex, and I was trying to be the super sweet girlfriend and take their garbage out for them. And I grabbed the garbage and I was going down the stairs, and these stairs are super narrow and they were all like the same level of stairs until you got to the very bottom. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I like went to skip over the last stair and I didn't have shoes on. And I like skipped over the stair and I landed on the bottom and I slipped and fell and I broke my foot. And so, because I broke my foot taking the trash out, I no longer have to take the trash out for the rest of my life. So,
that's nice.
Yeah, it was a bonus.
I also don't take the trash out. Ryan takes our trash out. My bonus.
Because you have a kid to do it now, but
Adam
gets old enough, he'll do it too.
Yeah, Adam does do it. Those were, I feel like we talked about kids. We didn't agree on a certain number. We kind of agreed on what we felt was right.
Yeah.
But we also, like, we talked about the most that we would have. Adam's like, I wouldn't have more than 10 kids. And I was like, I'm sorry, do you want to have 10 kids? He's like, no, but that's like my number where I would draw the line. I was like, my number's like 5, maybe 6. But then we didn't get married till I was 28. And so 6 was out of the question.
Yeah.
So we have 4. But our big thing is that we always promised we would be honest when we talked about how many kids we wanted to have.
Yeah.
So yeah. And mine is that when we were done having kids, that he get a vasectomy. Which he was very unhappy about. Not because I think it scared him, but now that we've had like several kids, he's like, you know what, when we're done, I'm willing, like I'm gonna get a vasectomy. I think because pregnancy's hard. And it really sucks. And so,
Yeah. Well, Sean's had one.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, like, as you get older, too, you're like, I think men are, I mean, I don't know, let me know, but men, I think, when they're younger, they're like, nah, I'm not going to do that.
Don't touch my manhood.
Right? And then as they get older, they're like, you know what? Honestly, I don't want any more kids. Cut that thing out.
Yeah, and I mean...
They're like, snip it because they realize, like, it's hard. And that's nothing compared to childbirth.
I know.
Like,
He's like, I don't want to have to... Actually, this is... He had to go to the doctor one time, and he had to put his feet in the stirrups. And he's like, do you know how uncomfortable that is? And I was like, yes. Yes, I do.
A little bit.
I had 3 children. One of them without an epidural, so yes.
I remembered one other non-negotiable.
Okay.
It was, I have to clean a cat box. He will not do the cat box at all. Except for when I was pregnant, because I can't. But that was the only time he ever did it. Otherwise, I have to do it.
Okay. Oh,
so
that's
that was
why
the
you
other
get
one.
cat litter.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, I just thought of one, and then I lost it.
Another non-negotiable. Yeah. So those were ours, and then...
I did think of the other one.
Oh, what was it?
So when Adam and I first started dating, he was really slow to commit because he had been married and divorced, and it was really hard. Obviously, as anyone who's divorced can tell you. And so when we were dating, I was like, you know what? I love this guy, and I wanted to kiss him, but I was too afraid to kiss him for the first time. So I said, Adam, can you do me a favor? And he was like, sure, whatever. And I was like, will you kiss me? And now every time I ask him to do me a favor, and he told me this at the time when we got married, he's like, every time you ask me to do you a favor, I'm going to ask you what it is. And still, to this day, when I'm like, hey, can you do me a favor? Not always, but will be like, I don't know, what is it? And I'm like, you know what? We have 4 kids together, so there's nothing on this earth that I can possibly ask you for that is out of the question. But that was his thing. He's like, I'm never going to do you a favor without asking him what it is. So that was kind of like our joking one, but...
That's cute. So some things that I looked online to see some other things that I personally wouldn't have thought of to talk about before marriage. Because they were just kind of regular things for me, like changing your last name if you're going to or not, or hyphen it. Those, like, I changed my name. It wasn't even a thing for me. But I know a lot of people, like, my other friend, she can't, or not that she can't, but there are only women in their family. And so, like, she doesn't have anyone to carry on the last name. So she wants to hyphen it so that they can carry on the last name. So I know that that's a thing, and so there's things like that you want to talk about on last names.
Well, I had a friend who got married, and her husband was, like, talking about when she changed her last name. She's like, what do you mean, change my last name? And then he's like, I mean, because we're getting married. She's like, I don't know, I never thought about it before. Mm-hmm. Like, it had just never occurred to her, and she did end up changing her last name. It was really hard for her, but now they've been married so long. Like, that's just who she is. Like, I don't even think about her with her maiden name, but it was funny, because she just was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, you don't always think about those things. And then, I don't know, like, I look back and I think about the examples that I had of good relationships, of who I wanted to be like in a marriage. So I don't know if when you talk to your significant other and be like, you know, like, this is the couple that I look at, and this is kind of the relationship that I would like to have. Mm-hmm. If that person is still around and who you're with can see that and kind of see, like, okay, like, I see who you're, like, exempling it after. And if does that make sense? Do you know what I'm saying?
It's funny, though, because I never thought about that. Like, my parents have a really good marriage, but there are some things that I do differently than they do, because we're different people.
Yeah.
And they were raised differently than I did. So my parents never fought in front of us, ever, because that was something that they dealt with as a kid, and they didn't like it. And so the first time when Adam and I got married, and we had a fight, I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get divorced. I mean, I just was like, I've never, like, it was a huge deal to me. Mm-hmm. And so when I talked to my mom, I was like, Adam and I got in a fight. And she was like, I mean, couples fight. I was like, I've never seen you and Dad fight. And she's like, yeah. And she was like, that's because your dad and I never agreed to never fight in front of you kids. And she's like, and I was always really proud of that. She's like, but now, looking back, she's like, now you guys think it's not normal to disagree in a marriage. And she's like, and we did disagree. She's like, we just talked about it in private. And my other sister also kind of had an issue with that.
Really?
Like, she talked to my mom about the same thing. And so, yeah, so that's interesting to me. And, but yeah, not that Adam and I fight a lot, but we have fought in front of our kids. I mean, not like a screaming, abusive fights, but we've fought in front of our kids, and we always go back to, you know, like, we're like, you know what, your dad and I had a disagreement, and we fought, and we each lost our temper, and we should not have lost control like that. But sometimes you fight with the people you love. Like, that's just how it is. And so I think that's a healthy way to teach my kids, that sometimes you disagree. But I don't know, you know, my goal as a parent, and Adam's goal is the same thing. And we've told our oldest Ryan this. Our goal as parents is to raise our kids in a way that they require less therapy than
Yes.
we required from our parents.
Exactly.
And I hope I'm doing a good job. I didn't need a ton of therapy, but you know.
I needed a crap load of therapy, man.
Again, she loves
I'm
you.
still in therapy, man.
She loves you, Hillary's parents.
I do. I love you.
Her therapist helped her learn it.
I'm in therapy mostly just to cope now. No, so I agree, and I think that's another thing too to talk about is like, do you want to fight in front of your kids or not? Mm-hmm. Or even like Sean and I don't really like fight, like argue. We have a lot of heated discussions. If we get in a really big argument or something, we will usually save it like
for later
to talk about. I'll be like, hey, mostly because I get really pissed off and I will like really like I will yell, I will get pissed. So I'll be like, hey, I need a minute to chill. And then we'll come back to this and talk about it later when I've had time to calm down and I can talk about it as a normal person and not this crazy, insane person.
Well, I guess that's what we do. We have heated discussions.
Like, yeah.
And then sometimes we get really angry.
Yeah. So I think that's a good thing to talk about. That also like coincides with the kids thing. I know Sean and we made a list, and I think I have it somewhere in one of the books in my cedar chest. We made a list of things on how we wanted to raise our kids, on like how we wanted to teach them and how we wanted to things we wanted to teach them and things we wanted to like talk to them about at certain ages and things like that. And like, because like my parents never really ever, I mean, my mom might disagree on this, but they never really taught me sex ed or anything ever. It was just mostly abstinence, you know. That was like it.
Don't go near a boy and you won't get pregnant.
Like, and it wasn't even like that. It was just mostly like, you know, just don't do that.
Don't have sex. You don't know what it is, but don't do it. When someone asks you to have it, say no.
Exactly, pretty much. So I never really did that, and I was never really taught it. So Sean and I were very open about that kind of stuff, and we want to make sure, like, and at an age appropriate, of course, be very open and be like, hey, like, if and ever you want to, like, we want to make sure she has the help and the resources that she needs to go that route if she chooses that way. And I mean, obviously we hope she does not, but we don't want her to go behind our back and hide or do anything. Like, we want her to be open with us. So that was one thing we both agreed upon. It's like, we really want to be open in conversation with the kids about that at an age appropriate time.
Well, and like, that's something that, like, I told Adam, I was like, no matter what our kids do in life, I'm never going to disown them. I'm always going to love them. And Adam agreed. He wasn't like, oh no, like, if my kids do this or this or this, I'm going to disown them. He was very much the same way.
What if they what's the team he likes?
The Patriots?
Yeah, what if they don't like them?
I mean, that's...
You're like, that's different.
That's different. My family is so diverse in the teams that they like that now I think
he'd be okay
wouldn't
with it.
shock him. But okay, here's the thing. Okay, Adam is very into sports. I'm so into sports. No, but she's gone feral. Adam is super into sports. I am not as much into sports, but I grew up watching basketball. And I grew up in California. And I love the Lakers. And he grew up in New England, so he likes all the New England teams. He's a diehard Patriots fan, Celtics fan. He doesn't like basketball as much. Bruins fan, Red Sox fan. And I grew up liking... Actually, we liked the Patriots because we didn't have a football team. We watched college football, which wasn't a problem. But we were super big into the Lakers, and I always liked the Angels because I used to go to Angels games a lot, and the Dodgers. And so when we got married, I was like, okay, fine, we can root for the Patriots. So I'm good with that. We can be Red Sox fans. I'm good with that. But I cannot, under any circumstances, root for the Celtics. Because the Lakers and the Celtics are like, they are enemies.
I don't do sports, so I
don't know. So our kids don't watch basketball, which I have
Ours
mixed feelings about because I do like the Lakers. So yeah, but he did tell me the other day, he's like, oh, the Celtics won. I think they won the championship this year. And I was like, don't even mention it to me. And he's like, okay, I won't. But Kit's like, why can't we watch the Celtics? I'm like, you're not allowed to watch the Celtics. So that was one of our compromises. We just were not going to do basketball because we could not meet at both ways. And the Red Sox became important to me when we were dating because we used to go to Red Sox games all the time.
Oh, fun.
So yeah, we went when I was pregnant with Kit. We went a few times before we were married. So yes, we have a lot of fun memories at the Red Sox.
Cool.
But that was one of our non-negotiables. No basketball.
Okay, so back to...
It was a non-negotiable. We did talk about it before we got married.
That's true, yes. I don't know, you kind of lost me a little bit. I zoned out a bit when you started talking about sports stuff.
That's okay.
My brain was like, whoa.
It's like up there with history. It's like up there with history. If I'm like, what is important about the year 1861? She'd be like you should know that one.
Well, I do now. Because you guys have only asked me like 40 million times, and I'm not going to talk about it right now. It's a very sensitive subject.
That should have been on Ears and Shots. Hillary's not a history person.
I am not.
And I want to start a history called Feral Women Throughout History. Or a podcast about feral women throughout history.
Anyways, so other things you should talk about before you get married. How much alone time you're going to want.
Yes.
That's a good one. Also, good thing to note is the more children you have, the less time you have alone. The less free time you have. Okay.
Until they get older.
Yes, till they get older. So Sean has one of his best friends, Tom. I'm going to call him out on here. Tom he has 2 little babies now. His wife just had a second baby. I think the baby's like, I don't know, 6 months old now or something. And the other one's like 2. And he's like Discord talking to Sean on there. And he's like, dude, I thought I didn't have any free time when I had this first kid. I'm not going to say the kids' names, but he's like, I thought I didn't have any free time with this first kid. And now I got this second kid. And he's like, now my free time's like down to this. And I was like, and Sean's telling me that Tom's telling him this. And I was like, I'm sorry, let me pull out my teeny tiny itty bitty little violin from my pocket and play it for you because I have zero sympathy for Tom right now. Like,
I mean, wait till you have 3 kids.
And I'm like, I've been living this for the last 8 years, okay? Like,
well, and once they get older, it starts to change. Yeah. Like you get more, but man, the baby years, the toddler years, those years are tough.
They're so hard.
And that is something that I feel like I wish that I had thought about more before I had kids, but we have some gaps in between our ages.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That was one thing too, is with Edwin, we had decided not to have another because 1, I knew I wouldn't be able to have a 4th and I didn't want to do a 3 because I knew I didn't think Edwin would be very good middle child. I felt like he would kind of struggle with that. And so with that, we chose not to. And then also I don't know, my brain just totally went off.
Middle child,
Edwin, not good. No. But I totally forgot I was going somewhere with that.
You didn't want to have a 4th child.
I did not.
So you didn't want to have 3?
No, I know. Dang it. Now I'm going to have to edit this part out because my brain farted.
I don't think you should. This is what happens when you have children. You have brain farts in the middle of podcasting. Oh my
gosh, I was going to say something.
I had a really good thought. It was profound.
I wouldn't say that it was profound. I would just say that.
You were talking about free time.
Free time. Oh, that was it. Was that I didn't want to have to change any more diapers.
That
I was like, I didn't want to change any more diapers, so I was like, I'm good. We are finally out of the diaper stage. I don't want to do it anymore.
That's funny because
we were done.
Well, there's a 4-year gap between Kit and Hank. And it wasn't meant to be a 4-year gap. I had a hard time getting pregnant. But actually, 4 years was my favorite gap. There's a lot. Hank and Tommy are 2 years. I really like the 2 years, but 4 is really good. But she was potty trained when he was born, and man, that was hard to go back into. Mm-hmm. I was like, I am never potty training and then having another baby. Like, if my kids are potty trained,
it's so hard.
I'm gonna be done. Because, like, it's hard.
It's frustrating. Well, because then you're like, oh, I finally don't have to buy more diapers. And then you're like, oh, crap, I gotta buy more diapers.
And it's just, those first few years, like, you're tired.
I mean, it's all worth it. Don't get me wrong. It's totally worth it.
It is worth it, but it's like, tough. Whew, and when people, sometimes hard. I struggle right now because I have I have Ryan, who's almost 16, Kit, who's 8 and very emotional. And then I have my 4-year-old and my 2-year-old. He's not even 2. He's 18 months. So they're like 2.5 years. And I always hate when people are like, oh, cherish these years because when they're teenagers, they are horrible. And, like, they make it sound like it's so easy. It's freaking hard. It's hard to be sleep deprived. It's hard to have little tiny humans depending on you for everything, you know? So people who are struggling with that, it is not always like these beautiful, like, oh, I'm cuddling with my baby. Oh, no. I'm so happy. I'm cherishing the moments. It's not all that. It's like, it's hard.
It is really hard.
It's wonderful. It's hard. My mom always says, the days are long, the years are short. And that's what I'm finding.
Yeah.
So my mom's like, people look back on those times with rose-colored glasses.
It's true.
She's like, you forget about the long nights.
Dude, Sean is like, I can't even remember the first 6 months of Mercedes' life. He's like, I can't remember it because he was so sleep deprived.
That's how I felt about Tommy. Yeah. He's my, he's my third, but our fourth. Does that mean, like, he's, you know, and, so it was hard to have him. And I would be like, I haven't recovered from Tommy's birth yet. He's 12 months old. I'm just now feeling normal.
No, is he 18 months?
Now he's 18 months. But, like, for up to, like, the first 12, like, honestly, I'd be like, I'm still haven't recovered from Tommy's birth. He's 12 months old. I still haven't recovered from Tommy's birth. He's 15 months old. Yeah. I'm just now feeling recovered, and he's 19 months old.
Yeah. It takes a while, so.
It takes a while. So if you're struggling and you're like, I should love this more. It's okay.
Yep. It's normal.
You are not alone.
Mm-mm. It's hard work. Yep. Other things are handling disagreements, how you're going to handle them when you do disagree. Like, are you, like, you need to know, I think part of that is knowing yourself, too, is you have to know how you handle disagreements. Like, are you one that needs, like, to step away for a few minutes and need, like, when, like me, like, I know when I get upset, I need to leave for a few minutes and go and I have to leave and step out and go and take a minute to myself, and then I will come back. If it's some people are okay and they're like, I need to talk about this now. I think that's how you are, isn't it? It's like, I got to deal with this now or it's going to, like, drive me insane.
Yes.
I'm so She's trying to get back in her chair. I'm sorry. It's not funny, but it's funny.
One of the children tried to come in.
Yeah.
And Hillary's too far away to close the door.
Yeah. I'm, like, stuck in the back corner.
She's, like, making the face, like, get out. Yeah. Get out of here. And they're just standing there staring at her.
Wiggling his tooth. It was Edwin. He's like,
look, wiggle my tooth, Mom. I was like, go talk to your dad. He was like...
They can't see your face.
Wide eyes. That's true. You can't see my face. He was like, wide eyes, like, why?
Oh, man. Anyway, so yeah, so I think you have to know how you need to be.
It's true.
How you handle a disagreement and how you need to step into it. Like, some people need to handle it right away. Some people, like, the other night when Sean and I were in not argument, like a heated discussion, I was really annoyed. And he was trying to go to bed, and he was like, oh, he rolls over. I just can't go to bed mad like this. You need to talk to me now. And I was like, fine. So then I told him what was wrong, and then we were fine. And then we both went to bed, and we were fine. But it was just funny because he's like, I can't do this.
Bedtimes.
Yeah.
When you need to sleep, that's a big thing. And some people know that. Some people live together before they're married, you know, but, like, those are types of things, like, I don't know. I've had friends who've gotten married, a lot of friends, and they go to have kids, and then suddenly it's like lifestyles. Like, one is like, no, I want to go out and party on Friday night still, and one is like, no, now we're married, I want to be home, we have kids.
Yeah. Well, even if you don't have kids, like, you need to talk about lifestyle. Like, are you going to be going out and doing all those things? Are you, like...
Right? Like, what's going to become more important? Because it's hard if you...
Priorities.
If you mature or your partner matures in different ways. Mm-hmm. You know? Exactly. And, like, if you change in different ways. In-laws.
Oh, yes, that's on my list here, too. Family, when you get married... you are not just marrying them, you are marrying their family, whether you like it or not.
So how you want your significant other to handle their mother or father.
Yes.
Or brother or sister.
And visiting them. Like, because I had a boyfriend in high school who we dated for like 4 or 5 years, and I could have sworn I was going to marry him. But he was very big on hanging out with his family and doing everything with his family. And I loved his family. They're amazing. Actually, they are the couple that I looked up to be my example of a couple. Their marriage was amazing, and I loved and looked up to them so much. But we always hung out with his family, and he would never hang out with mine. And he, like, I'm pretty sure just hated my family, which is fine, whatever. But I don't know, like, I look back on that, and I'm like... You know, it never would have worked out anyways because he never wanted to be around my family. And I was super, super close to my family. And, like, Sean and I, like, we hang out with my family pretty frequently. And
his
they're
family.
A huge part of my family. Yeah. And his family, too. Like, we go see his grandma in Inland and stuff. And so I think it's a huge part of it. And same, like, I mean, half yours lives across the world.
Yeah, I think we're probably...
World, United States, so.
I mean, we see Adam's family a lot, too. And I'm close to my sister-in-laws. But yeah. So, I don't know. We're, like, neutral. We see my family, but they live across the country. So, it is hard. But so, like, we are very used... And his family doesn't live around us either. We're, like, kind of out here alone. We're the lone wolves. Yeah. And, like, my sisters live close to my parents. And Adam's siblings live close to his parents. So we don't have to worry about where we're going for Thanksgiving or Christmas or the 4th of July. We go where we want to go. So yeah, so it's kind of nice. It's given us some independence, I feel like. Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, I feel like I have to go to my parents. Or I feel like we have to go to our in-laws. We don't really have that. It's not something that we planned for. But it is nice. Like
But yeah, people do have to plan for that, though.
Yeah.
Like, going to and from, because, like, when Sean's mom was alive, like, we did that. We had to rotate whose parents we went to and whatnot.
It's hard.
Yeah. You got to make it work. You got to figure it out. So that's one thing to talk about. It's pretty big, especially if your family's a huge part of it.
Yeah, definitely.
So, it's a big part.
Or if your mother-in-law or father-in-law insults you or your parents insult your significant other, how do you want them to respond?
Yeah.
My one thing was I never wanted a spouse who was like, well, that's just how my parents are, and would never defend me to his parents. I never wanted that. And if anyone ever says anything about Adam, I am like, nope. Not that my parents talk about Adam. My dad loves Adam. So does my mom. But, you know, I don't know. Yeah. One day my mom said, Mom, I love you. She said, like, a snarky comment about Adam, and I was like, that's not, And so, yeah, so that's one thing, that we don't allow our parents to badmouth each other. Not that they would, especially my dad. My mom, she doesn't allow it either. My sisters would never. Like, my sisters love Adam. But we would never. So, yeah, it's just not something that that was a big thing. Is that Adam and I, and we did talk about this, we decided that together we are number one to each other, and as a unit, our children are number one to us. And that's how we do it. So when we parent, all the decisions about our kids' education, sports, everything, we talk about it, we decide it together.
Which is a huge thing, too, I think, for when you're talking about getting married, too, because if you end up having kids. Because I think having kids, when you get married and you have kids, I think it's really hard, because I know a lot of people will be like, oh, they get married and they're married for a while, and they're like, oh, we're struggling and we've been wanting to have a kid, or this or that, or maybe if we have a kid, it'll bring us closer together. Please do not do that, because having children does not bring you closer together.
It's true.
It does not. It causes so much more stress. Sean and I never fought, ever, before we had children. Not even joking. Like, we did not at all. And then we had children. We had Mercedes. And then I don't know if it was just a sleep deprivation or whatever, but, like, after we had Mercedes, it's not even that we fought more. It was just, we were just more aggravated and more, like, on edge
you get
more.
irritated.
Yeah, you just get more irritated and you're more short and just, like, we just were more...
And children add an emotional level to everything.
So, and I could tell it just between the two of us. And it wasn't even that big of a thing, but it was enough that I noticed it.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, oh man, I can't even imagine if we had been in like a really bad spot and then we had a baby.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we would have been divorced because it'd have been so bad.
Yeah.
So, I do not suggest anybody trying to have a kid if they're in a bad spot.
Well, and Adam and I always agreed that we would never have another child unless we both wanted to have said child. Mm-hmm. Like, which we agree on most everything. Adam and I are usually, like, pretty unified. I mean, that doesn't mean we always agree, but when we make a decision, we usually are pretty close on, like, when we're like, hey, should we buy a house? We were pretty close on... Now, Adam sees it differently. He always sees that I'm the one who's like, yes, we can do this, and he's the one who, like, lacks confidence. But we had a kid when we got married. Like, we got married, and we had, you know, our son Ryan, because he was... from Adam's first marriage. So we've never had that, like, alone bonding time. Mm-hmm. So we always said that retirement would be our time. Mm-hmm. Like, we really look forward to retirement. We have a big goal for retirement. Like, we want to spend a lot of time together because we didn't really get the honeymoon phase. We went away for a week. Our car broke down in his ex-wife's driveway.
Oh, no.
They had to give us a ride to my parents' house. And then it was like the next day, Ryan came, spent the night at our house, and I took him to school. Oh, you know, man. I mean, it was really like nice week and hit the ground running. Yeah. So vacations, you should always talk about, like, before you get married, what do you see for vacations?
Well, I was going to say retirement. I was going to wrap that into retirement. Let's talk about retirement.
Yeah.
What do you want to do for retirement when you get older?
Because we don't want to wait till retirement to go a lot of places. Mm-hmm. But, so yeah, and some people aren't vacation people. Some people don't like to travel. Some people are like, I like to staycation. I only want to go an hour drive from home. You know, what are your expectations? Because if you want to travel to Europe and your partner wants to go to Vegas.
Beach.
Or the beach, you know, or skiing in the mountains, camping.
Oh, I hate camping.
You're like, I want to go stay at a beach resort. And they're like, I want to go camping in the middle of the
like,
woods.
See ya. I'll be down the road.
That's Adam and
Hilton.
Adam's idea of camping is packing a backpack and surviving off the land. Driving to the middle of nowhere. Surviving. And I'm like, my idea of camping is...
the Hilton down the road. We'll just drop them. We'll drop them off. And
Let's go camping in the backyard.
We'll go down to Hilton.
Let's go camping in the backyard. I'll go sleep in the house. Yeah. You can sleep in the tent with the kids.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't do that. The finances.
Yes. What are you gonna do with your money?
That's a huge one. And finances is one of the biggest things people get divorced over. Mm-hmm. Is money. When you are getting married, be totally upfront about debt.
It's true.
Debt is a huge one. Student debt, credit card debt, anything. I actually had a ton of debt when Sean and I got married from my previous divorce, because he stuck me with a car. So I had a car that I had to turn in, and so I ended up actually filing bankruptcy. And so I had that, for the first 7 years of our marriage. Well, I guess 5, because we had met after. Anyways, so I had that for a little while, and I told him all about it, and he was like, okay, whatever. And he had a bunch of student loans, and he was in college, and I had student loans, and so we were upfront about all that, and yeah. And so debt, I think, is a huge one to be upfront about, and you don't want to hide anything, because if that comes out later, it's going to hit the fan. So
yeah,
definitely talk about that kind of stuff. And then bank accounts too. Like I said, ours are, I mean, and everybody does it different. Like ours are all joint. Like that was our deal on what we chose. But I know lots of other couples that have them separate. Yeah. They have like, their own accounts, and then they have a joint account for bills. And they have like I know lots of people that do it all different kinds of ways. Like just talk and figure out what works best for you. Yeah. For your situation. So.
Because I have a friend who does it that way. And it's like, they put what they each need in the bill account. And then, because they both work. And then they each have, like, a separate account. And actually, they might all be linked. I think they might go to a credit. I can't remember how she was telling me. But, and then they each have and that's their, like, expendable income.
Yeah. Well, and that brings it back to, like, jobs. Like, are you both going to work?
Yeah, and they split it, like, 50-50. Yeah. Like, they each have the same amount of expendable income. They just have different cards, basically. Yeah. We have joint accounts. Everything's joint.
Yeah. So, and then if you both work, like, are you both going to work the whole time? Like, do one of you want to be a stay-at-home parent, or do one of you? Apparently, I cannot words right now.
Does one of you want to stay home?
Do one of you want to stay home? Like, Sean and I, my dream job was to be a stay-at-home mom, actually, when we met. And that was what I really, really wanted to do. And so I luckily get to do that now. But he knew up front that that's what I wanted to do. Whereas I know, like, some people, they end up being a stay-at-home parent, one of them, and then the other parent, like, resents the other parent because they're home all the time. And they're like, I'm doing all this work and blah, blah, blah. But if you're upfront about it in the beginning, like, usually you can avoid all of that. Yeah. Hopefully. Not always, but hopefully. Or if you're both going to work.
Right.
That's fine too, you know?
Well, one of our things was when we got married, we had our money. Everything goes into... We just decided for us, it was easier to put everything in a joint checking, and it was our money. And that was just easier for us than figuring... And we both worked then, you know?
Yeah, we did too, both of
us. And so that was what we did. Like, it was... And it's been... Even now, I stay at home, and Adam works, it's still our money. Like, he's never said to me, well, I bring home the paycheck.
Same. Yeah, same with us.
So, yeah. Like,
that's so weird.
It's our money.
And I pay all the bills. Like, Sean works and I pay all the bills, so.
Adam would never. He'd have to be, like, calling places. Oh, I can't get into this account to pay my bill.
I always joke with Sean, too. I'm like, dude, if I died, you would not know how to, 1, make a doctor's appointment. 2, know where the kids' friggin' school is half the time. Or where their teachers are. Or 3, how to pay any of the bills.
I told Adam once if he ever left me or cheated on me, that I would leave him and then I'd ruin his credit.
Oh, no.
And he was like, you wouldn't be able to do that. I'm like, yes. And you wouldn't be able to stop me because you don't know how to get into anything.
Oh, man. That's
He doesn't know how to get into the bank account or anything.
Oh, man.
And then I'm like, we should talk about this so you know how to get into it too. He's like, yeah, we should. And then he just doesn't remember. It's not even like I'm trying to keep that stuff from him. But,
I know Sean says the same thing. He's like, oh, you should teach me how to do this one time. And I'm like, okay, we'll set up some time outside and we'll do it.
And
he's
Adam
like,
just doesn't care.
Meh.
Like, he's like, I work too hard. The other thing is he can't cheat on me anyway because he doesn't have any money. Like, all of the money goes into, like, if there was, like, big purchases. Like, sadly, we live in, our lifetime right now is... Or our time of life right now is, what? Why is there $110 that came out of the account? Like, I would know, you know. So, anyway, but...
Yeah, same. I'll check it and I'll be like, what did you buy on Amazon? What did you do that? And he's like, oh. But he doesn't actually, Sean doesn't ever buy anything.
No, so Adam asks, he's like, he calls me, he's like, can I buy this $5 hamburger for lunch?
Sean
and I'm like,
the same thing.
Like, if I tell you, hey, we're super poor, don't spend any money... Then don't spend any money. But if it's like $5, so we have a $25 or less limit on how much like we can spend without asking the other.
Yeah,
well, it used to be $25. Now it's more.
Ours is 50. If it's 15 under, we don't really
which
need
is
to
sad
talk about it.
I'm also kind of like, oh, we need this for the house, or I need this for the kids, you know. But like personal stuff, like I bought a purse the other day. And I called at work and I like asked
Your revenge
him.
Purse.
My revenge purse. What did he do? I can't even remember.
I don't either. You were so mad at him though. And
I was so mad at him.
I'm gonna buy this purse.
I don't get super mad at him often where like I'm like super mad the next day. But
and I revenge purse bought with you.
Yes. And I wasn't like still angry, but what was it that he did? I don't even remember. It wasn't even a big thing. But I was like super annoyed with him. And I called him and I was like, do you remember how you made me mad last night? And he's like, yes. And he's like, but you're not mad today. And I'm like, well, I found this purse I really like and I'm going to buy it. He's like, how much is it? I'm like, it's $55. Do you care? And it was his birthday.
Not a couch.
It was his birthday week. Whatever, he got a present.
Yeah. So that also wraps into, oh, hold on. Goals. No, that wasn't it. But goals. You can have goals. What goals do you have as a couple for in the future? So I know, like, with Sean and I, we did talk about that too, is because Sean grew up in a completely different type of household than I did. His family was they did not have a ton of money. And, I mean, we had a decent amount of money. We were middle class. And we lived in a house, and we lived in, like, a normal, you know, whatever. But Sean only ever lived in an apartment, and his mom was a single mom, and she worked, like, 2 jobs, and she worked really hard, and she had 2 kids, and all that stuff. And Sean never, ever thought he'd live in a house his whole life. And I had expectations because I grew up with a house. And so when Sean and I when we got married and when we had talked about it, like, I had expectations of eventually someday we would live in a house, and I expected him to have a regular job, like a professional job, or whatever was in his career field of whatever he wanted to do, from his degree. Like, I mean, and obviously you gotta, and I knew, like, I kind of knew the corporate world a little bit from my dad because he worked at Intel. So I knew, like, you had to start at the bottom and you got to work your way up. Like, I knew all that stuff. And Sean went in and he got his interview, and he was doing a paid internship at first. And he went in and he got the job, and they hired him, and he didn't even negotiate for any pay. And they paid him $30,000 a year. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? You didn't even negotiate? And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, you don't just take what they tell you. You got to talk to them and negotiate. Come on.
See, and I wouldn't know that either, because, like, my dad, like, worked the same job for, like, 20 years.
Really? Yeah. So I was so pissed. I don't even know. Apparently I traumatized him because he never did it again. He was like, he did. So anytime he went in for a raise after that, he's like, oh, I talked to him. I negotiated, and I got this much of a raise. And he did awesome after that. So now he, like, worked his way up, and he did awesome. And so he like progressed really high. He did really well, and he's done really well for himself. So I'm very, very proud of him. And he's done an amazing job with his family, and, like, I don't know. He's just an amazing person. And so he's just been really successful. So he has exceeded my goals in life of what I have expected for us as a family. But we talked about all that beforehand, whereas he never expected to do any of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of where you make your other partner better. I made him better in that aspect, and he makes me better as he calms me down and he makes me not as crazy.
Yeah. So Adam and I grew up in very different backgrounds. I grew up, like, I never considered myself poor as a child, but compared to, like, Adam's family, like, we were not, like, my parents always used to joke that we were middle class because we were always $100 over qualifying for any welfare. Like, that was always the joke in our family. And it wasn't always quite true, but, like, we had what we needed. And Adam's family kind of always had more. They always had a bigger house, and we had a normal size house. And so that was kind of like an adjustment for us, because I'm totally fine living in a house that's a little squishy, because that's how I grew up. But he kind of always wants a bigger house, you know, not now as much, but so that was an adjustment for us.
I'm used to being in this squish house.
Like, I grew up in a family of 6 with 1 bathroom.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Holy monkey.
I had 10 minutes to shower.
Well, that's fine. I can shower in, like, 3, but that's like, what if you gotta pee?
I mean, you went to the bathroom and you got out. You did your business.
What if you had to poop?
I am a very efficient pooper. So when
but so this is funny. Else? There's, like, so many people.
I mean, it was never, like, I was not often an issue.
What if, like, 2 people had to poop at the same time?
Didn't happen a lot, honestly. Okay, so when I married Adam...
These are, like, questions that I have to know now.
So I'm not gonna lie. When I married Adam, like, I would be like, why do you take so long to poop? Because in my family, you went into the bathroom, you sat down on the toilet, you did your business, and you exited the bathroom. And I was like, dude, you need to, like, work on pushing that crap out. Like, I mean, honestly... Like, because in my family, it was like, okay, I guess often people would like, are you almost done? So you didn't go in the bathroom just, like, dilly-dally around. You, like, went in and you
did your business.
You did your duty, literally, like as fast
You're
as
just on
humanly
the puns.
possible. It's because I'm a writer. So yeah, but no, and it was just so that's how I grew up. What is our time at?
I don't know, so I'm trying to figure out.
I mean,
don't know how long
we have to edit this part out.
Keep talking.
So yeah, so and Adam grew up in like I don't know, a 5,000 square foot house. I don't know if it was that big. It was at least 3,000 square feet, and to me that's a ginormous house. I'm like, why would you have a house that big? And he's like, everyone has their space, and I'm like, it's space for serial killers to hide in your house when you go to bed at night. Like you could like have a person living in your house and not know they were there. Like I don't want that, you know? So
Oh, I've been in houses like that. They freak me out.
yeah. Like this is the room that we only go in once a year. What if someone is living in that room? I mean, I grew up in California, so crap like that happens.
What if you have a squatter?
What if you have a squatter? See, if you have one bathroom in the house, it's very apparent if you have a squatter.
No, one bathroom's too small.
It is. It's true. It's too small. I look back on that and I'm like, how did my parents do that? But like we had a robe, so we'd put on our robe and we'd go to the bedroom and get dressed. I did my hair in my room. I did my makeup in my room.
Yeah.
Like the bathroom was for bathing, pooping, peeing.
Brushing your teeth?
And brushing your teeth. Which actually, sometimes on Sunday morning when we were going to church, I'd brush my teeth in the kitchen sink. You didn't, yeah, I guess that's not a normal thing. So, yeah. So, we just had different, and his family took expensive vacations. My family, we went to see my grandparents, or we went to Disneyland, which is expensive, but we had the California pass because we lived there, so it was cheaper.
So did you guys have goals that you guys had set?
We did. We wanted to retire before we died.
Our goals are to not do anything.
Well, his parents didn't have any, like, his parents still haven't retired and they're in their 70s. We wanted to make our family our number one priority. None of us ever wanted to, like, we never wanted to put work above our family. And we wanted to own a house. I guess we didn't really have goals.
Okay.
We wanted to be
That's okay.
We wanted to be self-sufficient. We wanted to be self-sufficient.
Okay.
And we wanted to be happy. That was one of my goals, which I feel like we have. And we have, like, surpassed. Like, I look at what we have now, and I laugh at, like, what we had when we got married. Because we both made, like, $40,000 the year we got married. And now, like, I look at our life, and I'm like, we would be like, I don't even know how we did it. But we did it. Our rent was, like, $700. So.
Yeah. Yeah, ours I think was $640 when we started, and we lived in low-income housing.
Yeah. We wanted to have enough so that we could retire and enjoy our life. That was one of our goals. We wanted to own a house at one point, and we wanted to make sure we had a happy family. So one of our goals that we did talk about was if we ever stopped getting along and we started having issues before we got divorced, we would try counseling. That was like one of our goals. That was like, I don't know if that's a goal, but that was like a promise that we made to each other that like we wanted to not get divorced. And
usually go into a marriage hoping that. That's
I have
usually a
known
goal.
some people though who have not. They're kind of like, you know, you can always get divorced.
That's kind of weird to me, but okay.
But like that was one of the things is that we would try our hardest, and if we ever came to a point where
we were squeaky now.
I know, where we were having issues, that we would go to counseling to try and work it out.
Yeah, we've agreed on that too. If we ever got to that point,
so yeah,
we've talked about that too. I think. The last two things we've got, well, we have one more, and then we wanted to wind back to the kids thing, I think.
Yes.
But the last other topic was religion. I think is a big one to talk about before you get married. You don't have to be the same religion to get married. I personally think that it makes things a whole heck of a lot easier if you are the same religion. Doesn't mean to say that you can't
You
be
at least
different
need to be
religions.
on the same page.
Yeah. Be on the same page as typical beliefs and,
And willing to support.
Yeah, willing to support people. Like, I know lots of people that are not the same religion that have wonderful, successful marriages. Mm-hmm. And they just support each other in whatever they believe, and it works out great.
Yeah.
It just makes things a lot easier. I think especially once you bring children into the aspect
Definitely.
of it, on what you're going to raise them as and what you're going to do in that aspect. So I think that just makes it a lot easier. And then bringing it back to talking about how many kids you're going to have. Kim wanted to bring up
because I think one of the most important things that you can talk about before you get married, I mean, there's a lot of important things, but I think having children is a big one. Because I've known a lot of people who have felt one way but answered another because they want to get married or because they don't want people to judge them. I've known a lot of people who are like, I don't want to have kids, but I don't want to tell someone that because they'll think that I'm selfish. Or I only want to have one kid, but I don't want people to know that because I think that they'll think I'm selfish. Or I want to have a lot of kids, like you really have to have you have to come in with either a spirit of compromise. I guess that's just it. You just have to, if you're on two opposite ends, you have to be like, we'll talk about this,
Except that, I don't know, except for if I think, like, if one is like, I don't want kids, and the other is like, I do.
Yeah.
I feel like you got to figure that
It's
crap
true.
out
you
before
have to figure it out. Like, I'm thinking of the number of kids.
Yeah, the number of kids I think is fine. Unless, like, compromisable.
Like, I want 10 kids and you want one kid. Where are we going to compromise? Yeah, you should probably talk that out.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important that if someone's like, well, I really want to have 5 kids, and someone's like, I only want, 0 or 1, I don't think you should ever have children to please someone else.
No, not at all.
Like, if you are on the fence about having children, I think that it's better to, err on the side of caution.
It just leads to resentment later. I feel like
so
if you just go towards that.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think that people should feel guilty about that.
No, not at all.
If you don't think that you should have kids for whatever reason, I don't think you should feel guilty about that.
No, I don't either. My goddaughter doesn't want children.
Yeah.
And she knows it, and I'm like, okay, that's awesome. It's just, that's fine. She may change her mind later, but,
yeah,
that's fine.
It's just not for everyone. And, sometimes things happen. Accidents happen. And if you feel in that moment, if you feel like, oh, we didn't want to have another kid, but then,
we did.
We did.
Yeah.
Because, birth control is only so effective. Mm-hmm. And it's hard and you feel resentment. I think that's normal. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's something that you should feel guilty about. But I think that is one of definitely the most important things is you need to agree on.
Yay or nay.
Yeah. You need to at least, if one of you is like, I only want to have 1, and one of you is like, I'd like to have 10 or 12. It's definitely...
12's a lot.
Yes.
You need, a whole, carriage for that.
Right. And see, for me, when, if I were to be with someone who's like, I only want 1 kid, it would be a big deal to me because I always wanted more than 1 kid. I wanted at least 3. So that was my goal. I didn't want more than 6, but no less than 3.
Yeah. So I agree with that. Winding it back to that, so.
And I think you should also talk about what if you can't have kids? What if there's a health problem in the way?
Exactly. That could always happen as well.
Yeah.
You never know until you start trying.
Yeah. So that is, and I knew someone who she couldn't have kids and her husband left her. I mean, that's horrible.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
That is so sad.
And so that does happen. So I think that's one thing that, you need to talk about what will happen, if your plans don't work out because it's just not fair.
Yeah.
I think sometimes.
Yeah. It took us almost 2 years to get pregnant with Mercedes, and that was really hard. It's really hard emotionally. It's really hard on the relationship, and then it's just hard in general every month and whatnot. But yeah, if you can't have children, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to adopt? Are you going to do IVF? Are you going to do, all the other stuff?
Right, how willing are you to try? Because those kinds of things are hard. And
they're super expensive, yeah.
So yeah, it took us 2 years to get pregnant with Hank. And I was kind of at the point where I was like, well, I have Ryan and I have Kit, but really, I wanted 3 you know, it was really hard for me, and then we did finally get pregnant, and then we we had Tommy like 2 years later. So
that's how Edwin was too.
Yeah,
is he
so
just was like, bam, I'm here.
that was kind of a surprise to us. But like we were expecting to have him, but we didn't think it would be that soon.
Yeah, same. Yeah. But I think those are some really good topics to talk about before you get married. We have a few more that we're going to bring up on our next episode.
And somehow you deal with some after marriage.
Yes.
Because marriage is hard.
It is very hard, and it's continuously working. We're going to bring those up on our next episode, and we're also going to be talking about some mom guilt with kids and in general on having them and not, and kind of bringing back a little bit of what we were just talking about, but a little bit more in depth. And I think we're going to wind down and finish off.
Remember, if you're a mess,
you're not alone. You're feral.
I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Hillary. And we're the Feral Housewives.
But when times are tough and things get rough, it's a good thing we've got our best friends by our side. Laundry couches are a must. Baking cookies is a bust. Unconventional moms are the bomb. Put the kids to bed, listen. 2 feral housewives raising kids. 2 feral housewives dealing